Good afternoon. This is Chris Armskog with PWGC, here for the second installment of the Environmental Echo podcast. We're here with Mr. Toby Carlson of the Carlson Corp, Town Line Rail. This is part B. We're just going to continue our conversation from before and see where it leads. So, Toby.
Yes.
When you're not using AI and dealing with Long Island's waste recycling problems, what do you do for fun? You a traveler?
I have 4 beautiful children.
Okay.
Thanks, babe. I have 4 wonderful children that oh man, apples
Keep
in
you
my
busy?
eyes. Yeah, they keep me busy, and I live in Northport, and I love the town. It's a beautiful town. And I love the water, and you know, water is such a big thing, right? I have to say that I'm a water person. I never thought I was until I hit my 40s, and now that I'm in my 40s, I love to be out on the water. And in fact, that kind of gets me into my whole thing is, you know, water, right? Water, our oceans, and at the end of the day, what does Town Line Rail stand for? Preservation. Preservation of the water and the oceans. Preservation of Long Island's water. Because we need to stop producing carbon. And we need to stop using things that make our lawns green, but makes our oceans green too. And so when I go down to the water, and I have a boat, and I love being on my boat and take my family on the boat, and we look at the sound, and we look at the harbors, and we look at the wildlife that is missing. It was there when my grandfather was around, and my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather, it's weird, I got a lot of connections with the history. He owned a marina down in Cold Spring Harbor called Powell's Marina.
Okay.
And I have pictures of him standing, you know, next to, you know, fish that were like this big. Pictures of dolphins swimming in the harbors. And so when we take trips on our boat, we're always looking for wildlife. And I went on a trip on the boat with the kids coming up the East Coast this spring, and we had this magical day to night, where these pods of dolphins came up and swam on the bow.
Wonderful.
50, 60 of them. And they were jumping over each other, and then it was magic. It was pure magic. The kids were excited. And then all of a sudden, we saw whales. It was diverse. It was beautiful. And then as the sun set, and the night got dim, we could see the stars. And then we could see the bioluminescence. As the bow broke the water, we saw the bioluminescence in the water. And those experiences, most people don't have. And it's sad, because I think if most people had those experiences, I think that they would try to understand better why waste management, why household hazardous waste is such a huge, huge problem on Long Island that sticks out like a thumb into the water. Everything runs off. Every day I'm going to go on the boat after a heavy rain in Northport Harbor, it's dark green. A couple days, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no rain, the water gets clear.
Yep. I live down on the South Shore. I live in Bayport, and same thing in the spring. I mean, wintertime, you can almost see usually right off the bay, you know, 3-4 feet down, and then, you know, May, things start to warm up, you get the runoff, and you get the massive bloom. So, same thing. I'm on the water. First year of COVID, I was probably on the water more than I was in the office, because we weren't allowed to be here. I was getting kicked off Fire Island when I couldn't see anyone for 6 miles either way, because you weren't allowed to be at the beach. But same thing. I have three children, and always out on the water doing a little fishing, sailing, and you know what you're talking about. I've been seeing more dolphins and whales on the South Shore of Long Island the past decade, because I grew up on Fire Island doing, you know, surfing and things like that when I was younger. And so I'm starting to see more life in the oceans, you know, but the bays are heavily compromised. In fact, just this past weekend, a few of the people on the staff and I did a creek cleanup with Save the Great South Bay. which is helpful. You know, getting some of the litter and things like that. But their bigger message is about the nutrient runoff and the fertilizers and the need for sewers. Which again, that part I think is people are starting to get educated a little bit about the wastewater. I'm seeing that get through to a lot of the Long Island community. Why sanitary systems, cesspools, the amount of nitrogen they add to the groundwater that then makes it out to the creeks. They're starting, at least populations, at least along the shores are starting to realize that and the impact it's having, which unfortunately it's late in the game, but at least the knowledge is soaking in and getting through to people. So it makes me a little more optimistic that other issues, the water issue into the bays because that's visible. The groundwater, I mean, just this past weekend, there are issues with New York City water the salinity of New York City water is going to start getting affected from just salting roadways up by the reservoirs. Yes. And talking about what we were talking about before, just being, it's not a localized problem. Those reservoirs aren't even in New York City. They're 100 and 120 miles northwest of the city. And so that community now is going to be impacted, so it is a larger ecosystem that needs to be looked at when these decisions are being made, and who is it? If a rural community salts their roads up in the Catskills, how is that going to affect overall New York City? So these things, it does have an effect. Every action,
it's a ripple effect.
It is,
and we're making ripples all the time that we're not counting the consequences for.
Correct.
And I think that's where the conversation has to go. And I think that was the whole point of a SECRA for the county. Because if we calculated everything together, we could begin making educated, informative decisions. Not speculation, not misunderstanding, and then we could finally kind of put to rest what our priorities should be. Are our priorities the green, magnificent lawn anymore? Or could it be a not-so-green lawn and beautiful, clear oceans? Right?
That produce fish, that produce clams, oysters, that give livelihood for the region. And quite frankly, it was probably about 7-8 years ago where I didn't even want my kids swimming in the Great South Bay anymore come summertime.
100%.
It hit a stage where they'd come out, they'd get itchy, they'd have rashes, and I'm like, oh, this is not the island I grew up on and was able to enjoy at the same level.
Yeah, so. I think to jump in on that, because I get so excited when I actually have a thought. The chemical revolution was never anticipated when the cesspool was invented.
Correct.
And the chemical revolution is one of the biggest lobbyists in government. You want to change the world? You want to make the oceans clean? It starts with good governance that values the environment over lobbyists, environment over money, because that's our future. It's not the lobbyists or the big companies. Our future is in the environment we live in. It's the number one denominator of our health, our longevity, is our environment and the conditions we live in on a daily basis. What we consume, the air we breathe, the water we drink. If we look at the ingredients list on all the products that we consume, we really should start Googling what those things are and how they affect our long-term health. When we look at Long Island as a whole, it's weird because it used to be a lot of gas stations. Now there's not gas stations anymore. There's health centers, there's clinics, there's cancer treatment centers. There's a reason for that. It wasn't before the world wars and the chemical revolution that we had those things. Now those things are great, but what's causing the drive of that? Is it the environment, or is it what we've made and put into the environment that has the greatest toll on us as an island and us as individuals? Is it the rail system? Is it the waste management system? No, we're just vessels to move things
around.
We're just taking everybody's waste and putting it in a place where it belongs. We're not the enemy. Our choices about what we're consuming as individuals, what we're allowing to become in our lives, what we're allowing us to absorb, that's the real problem. And I think unless we get real with that problem, there will never be any change. And those oceans will get greener because it's cumulative. And until we really see that for what it is, man, we got our work to do. But we can't have our heads in the sand anymore.
No, we can't. We definitely have our work cut out. There's plenty of work to do. And you're just talking about it. It just reminded me of a conversation I was just having with a waitress just a few nights ago. And she came to bring me coffee or tea. And I started telling her about an article I read about tea bags and being the greatest source, one of the greatest source of microplastics that people are getting in their bodies.
Yeah.
And it's like, we surround ourselves by chemicals, all the cleansers we bring in, and it just, again, in an environment where you're bringing these in and then wiping them up, putting it in the washing machine's taking the chemicals out, putting it right down in your front backyard, and then that's goes a few thousand feet to a wellhead that's getting pumped out that you drink. It's, the system is so, it's just silly to think that what we're doing and what we're buying, what we're consuming, not thinking about the cycle that it goes through and how we absorb it again. It's very silly and us being, wanting to keep our heads in the sand as a society. So that is something that does need, we need to get in front of and really kind of think about those choices that we as a community, as a society are making and what we're introducing to our children, early on. But I see the changes, there are more healthcare facilities, there are less farms, and things of that nature. And then even then I get involved with regulations that regulate water and soil, Meanwhile, people can't bring certain soils to their yard if there are certain chemicals, but you can go to the store and buy gallons of these chemicals to just, to do whatever you want with on your property.
Bang.
But if it's teeny bits of it in the soil, then it's not allowed. And it's just like, I'm not against the regulations we have, but they're we need to think more holistically.
I think you smashed it.
Yeah.
I think you smashed it right there. There's the problem. The problem is not the facilities. The problem is the people. The communities don't understand the impacts. If you take 30 to 50 pounds of household hazardous waste in every home and you multiply that times all the homes on Long Island, and that's unrestricted hazardous waste. In Huntington and Smithtown alone, it would have 28 rail car loads of hazmats and tankers sitting on the ground at all time. Now people, they go out and they use these things and it's not intentional. It's not intentional. Advertising and marketing gets us to buy these products because, I'll look prettier, or hopefully I look prettier, but it becomes this sort of self-perpetual cycle that sort of never ends because we never really recognize what the impacts are. And hopefully soon there will be somebody somewhere that has the ability to say, hey, this is the problem, let's fix it. And everybody has the fortitude to do it together.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Hope so.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, next topic. No. So where do you like to boat? Connecticut?
No, I'm a
down the shore?
long, slow guy.
All right.
I have a tank of a boat that just
Okay.
just slow plod along, 7-8 knots.
I'm the same way.
Very efficient. Not burning a lot of fuel.
Okay.
Slow go. Just more of being on the ocean and connected.
Good. Yeah, same thing. I have a 42-foot trawler. Same. I hardly ever get above 9.
Yeah, exactly.
9 knots, so all right.
That's my speed.
Which the kids, I can tell you, once the kids hit, I don't know how old yours are, but once they hit about 11 or 12, the joy kind of they want to go a little fast.
They want to go fast.
A little faster. Toby, if you talk a little bit about just your recycling facility as far as organics, and what you're doing, what you take in, and what do you do with this? Because I think this is a lot of the public doesn't really understand where a lot of their just organic waste from their yards.
Yeah,
go,
yeah, of course. We process a tremendous amount of organic waste for Long Island, both out at the town of Brookhaven and our facility in Smithtown, Kings Park. We take in vegetative debris. When you collect your leaves on your lawns, that all gets bagged. In fact, that's a great thing to talk about. Let's talk about bagged yard waste. And the issue, what we create when we bag it in plastic bags. Big problem. And another issue that's political. Everybody likes to throw out their leaves. Everybody needs a place to go. We stick them in these black garbage bags, and then they go to a recycling facility like ours, and we try our best to get all the plastics out. But you can't get it all. And then when you process that vegetative waste and reduce it in size, you take all those little chunks and little pieces of plastic and you run it through a big grinder and you grind it down to what? Microplastics. Mm-hmm. And then they're mixed in that finished soil or that finished mulch or that compost, and then we spread it back out on our lawns thinking we're doing a great thing. But we're really just exponentially sacrificing our environment for convenience of the plastic bag. So, yeah, I know that was a big sentence.
No, agreed.
But I mean, so then when you bring it up and in political conversations say, hey guys, I think we should get rid of plastic bags. Everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute, because the townspeople are like, whoa, we need to get rid of,
Because it makes it easier on the front end to collect but on the back end, you're creating another problem that we could address if we want to take a few extra steps up in the front end, and then it's not a problem in the back end.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's and that's how waste management works, right? Waste management, unfortunately, is reactive. It's reactive to crisis, but it shouldn't be. Waste management should be proactive. It should see the problem, it should see it down the lane, and it should admit, Houston, we have a problem, we need to solve it, let's solve it now, get on board, bang. No more microplastics in yard waste. Mm-hmm. And so we do yard waste, we do mulch. Mulch is much easier. That comes in not in plastic bags. We grind it down, we make mulch. It goes back into the environment. It's clean, it's healthy, it adds nutrition to the soil. No drama. Except that it smells sometimes when we make it. Okay, but you know what? Yeah. It's our leaves, our wood, our community. So it's part, and we manage that. And that's part of our relationship with the state and our facility. But at the end of the day, you go out to different communities where different communities have different industries. Everybody has to understand that those industries are essential. Every so often, it smells like mulch.
Yeah.
But if we want to have clean yards, it has to smell like mulch every once in a while. It's just the way it works. It's the reality. And unfortunately, it's difficult to explain that to people in the way that they understand. We don't control the weather. We couldn't control like an inversion event where the wind goes still and you have a whole bunch of, heat coming out of the mulch. And it smells a little bit, but it's harmless. It's harmless, but it's connection. It's connection to our environment. It means that we're taking stuff that people want to throw away.
Locally and recycling it.
Recycling it and giving it back in a way that's clean.
Yeah, and I think when the public thinks about recycling, they really don't. Some of the largest things being recycled are organic waste and construction and concrete and asphalt. And those, they slip people's heads. I don't think people are realizing that the industry that processes those are the largest recyclers by far. On Long Island, and that need, that's the need for those recycling is so tremendous to kind of, again, reduce room in landfills, and also to take a product that is not, can be reused. A concrete from an old sidewalk or an old building has plenty of life left in it. It just, you need to sometimes take it to a facility, crush it, put it the right size, blend it, and then it can be used under a slab for so many uses that are beneficial, that reduce the need to go and get additional virgin aggregates. And so I think the industry, one of my opinions, is the industry doesn't get enough credit for the amount of recycling, and that's partially a branding thing. But it's a shame that one of the things that the public, they should look into things like that, and understand where, like you're saying, their own leaves, they might go be picked up by a truck, drive around a little bit, end up a few miles away. And so, a few days a year when they do smell that odor, that's their own. That's from their own, making, part of it. And so, yes, getting it once in a while, is not a horrible thing, like you said.
It's only natural, and we all have bathrooms in our house. So
Yes, we do.
if we leave the door every once in a while, we leave the door open in the bathroom, and guess what? You smell it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, right? We're just living in our own environment.
Yep.
And that's it.
And with that, with that audience, we'll leave you with that.
The echo heard around the world.
anyway, Toby, it's been very
thank you
nice
so
to have
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank
Really
you.
appreciate your time on the PWGC Environmental Echo, and hopefully I see you out on the water one day.
By the way, you guys have been great for us.
Thank
Great
you.
fit.
Thank you.
Excellent with the data, the wells, the monitoring wells, the whole thing.
Thank you.
And
We're
I
lucky to have
appreciate
a wonderful staff, and Carlson Corp is a client. We've been lucky enough to work with you and other large recyclers. And again, I thank you for what you provide to the community. It's a service that people don't always realize. But thank you for that, and thank you for coming on the Echo. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you for joining the PWGC Environmental Echo. My name is Chris Amskog, and for Paul Boyce, who couldn't be here today. And as always, if there are topics that you'd like us to explore, please reach out to us at our website, and we'd love to follow up on them. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much, and goodbye.